Dr. Anthony Fauci, by now you know, is a ridiculous human being. And he was, when he was in the federal government, the single highest paid federal employee. How about that? That's what you get for starting COVID. And then after he retired from the federal government, well, it turns out we've been paying to protect him to the tune of some $15 million. What is going on here? For that, we turn to the man whose organization exposed all of this. John Hart is here. He's the CEO of Open the Books. John, good to have you with us, sir.
Yeah, good to be on, Vince. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Dr. Fauci, he leaves the government. Is this normal? Do federal officials normally get taxpayer-funded security after they leave? What a perk.
No, Vince, yeah, this is very unusual. He not only has security, he has a publicly funded chauffeur in addition to his fully staffed U.S. Marshal Security detail. And it's unusual for a lot of reasons. One, in your opening, as you pointed out accurately, is he left as the highest paid employee. He also received a lot of cash prizes when he left office from international and domestic organizations. And to put it in perspective, Dr. Fauci retired with a salary of $480,000 a year. And that's more than the president, who makes about $400,000, and the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court makes $312,000. And of course, most federal employees, even members of Congress, are paid, far below that. So it's odd on its face, and it just raises a lot of troubling questions that taxpayers just deserve answers to.
Look,
and as is typically the case, we got the runaround. And it's like pulling teeth to get straight answers from federal agencies.
So I want to get into how you got all of this in just a moment, but I do want to point out, look, if there are actual threats to him that involve his time in government, that's totally unacceptable. But the idea that it would cost $15 million over the course of what? That's 2 years worth of time? Is that what you found?
Right.
The idea that it would cost
that's
$15 million? Like, there's got to be a much cheaper way to protect this guy than spending $15 million.
Exactly. Yeah, and to be fair and accurate to Dr. Fauci is, he's reported threats to his life. I mean, that's been in the public debate that's been out there, and that's unacceptable in any realm of reality. But he's not the only public official who's been threatened. A good comparison is Mike Pompeo. He has gotten help from Secret Service, but you're dealing that's not an apples to apples comparison, because in the case of Pompeo, you had a foreign government threatening to assassinate him, where that's a question of war and peace at a national security level. And not to minimize any threat against Dr. Fauci, but it's a different comparison. And the better comparison that's really striking in this whole investigation is there have been threats and assassinations of judges. And the FY25 budget request includes $28 million in additional funds to protect all of the nation's judges. Okay, so half of that, you think about 28 million versus 15 for one person, like it doesn't add up.
28 million for all of the nation's judges.
Right, and compared to one person, Dr. Fauci, why is he not picking up some of this tab on his own dime? And typically when an agency has a really crystal clear, solid case to make, you ask a question, and they immediately get back to you. They give you a formal statement. They're eager to get their story. And again, our mission, we're not trying to tilt the scales here. We're trying to get the information made available to the public, so there can be a transparent, open debate, and let the American people decide what's the best use of their taxpayer dollars.
$15 million.
So $15 million.
So this report, again, Open the Books, getting a hold of this, a piece co-authored by Jordan Schachtel over at the Dossier. An excellent piece on this subject. And $15 million covers, in part, salaries and benefits for deputies and administrative personnel assigned to Fauci's protective detail, the costs related to transporting Fauci, and as well as law enforcement equipment, covering the term of January 4th of 2023 through September 20th of 2024. Does that mean that this security has concluded, or was that just a contract for a single term and we don't know the answer after that?
Well, we don't have an answer to that question. We've asked that, and we don't know. We don't know if this is going to be ongoing, if this is an open-ended commitment. And again, taxpayers have the right to know what this understanding is. And we got this by filing a FOIA request, and we're going to keep investigating this until we get the answers we want to get.
You filed a FOIA request. How forthcoming was the government?
Not terribly. I mean, it took. I'd have to double check on the timing of when it was issued versus the response we got. But you file a FOIA request when the government is not forthcoming. It's much easier just to pick up the phone and ask the question and just get an answer back.
Yes.
That's what. If you call a member of Congress's staff, I mean, I worked on for Senator Coburn for years. I was his comms director. We were eager to get our side of the story out on any story because we were proud of the work we were doing. And if the marshals were proud of this arrangement, they would have been very forthcoming and would have defended it to the hilt right out of the gate. And that just hasn't been the case. And again, the comparison of the $28 million budget to protect judges versus 15 for one person who's out of office, who is very wealthy, it doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah. So he goes years with security detail, chauffeur service, all in retirement. Meanwhile, I've noticed that there are other figures who are supposed to be protected by the American government who've actually been injured. That would be President Trump, who was shot on July 13th of this year, when left completely vulnerable by the United States Secret Service, quite unfortunately. So I'm very concerned about why certain people are getting security at all, and why the security apparatus we have is not impressive enough to actually protect the people they're assigned to.
That's right, and there's double standards beyond the case you just mentioned. For example, RFK, while he was a presidential candidate, he requested security detail and was denied multiple times. And again, it raises that why is there an inconsistent approach? Whether you like RFK's politics or not, why are we picking and choosing it? And sort of what it appears to be is that Fauci is seen as progressive royalty.
Yes.
He's upheld as this great scientist of the age, but he's no Galileo or Copernicus. I mean, he's just a person that had opinions, and he kind of imposed them on the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of unanswered questions about the effects of his policies on kids.
Yeah.
During the lockdowns.
Yeah. Where's our millions of dollars?
Exactly.
So why does he get millions of dollars, $15 million to protect him? What about the rest of us? He spent all this money inventing a virus, it looks like, in Wuhan that run roughshod over the world and killed a lot of people, including Americans. Where's the money for us? It's amazing. So we get to protect him to the tune of $15 million. And to your point, just to kind of emphasize what you just said, which is it really demonstrates the political nature of all of the decision-making within the Biden White House. They didn't give RFK protection because they didn't want to dignify his campaign as real. It's as simple as that. And then they gave Fauci protection because, as you put it, he's progressive royalty. And so this is the ridiculous standard by which the Biden White House has measured who gets protection and who doesn't.
That's right. That's exactly right. And again, and how are we going to measure the cost, and how are you going to compensate the millions of families of kids whose language development was delayed because they had to mask up as a 2-year-old in school? I mean, there's going to be very, very damaging long-term effects on child development because of this. And maybe Fauci ought to reimburse the families who've been affected by those policies.
In media interviews about his security detail, Dr. Fauci said that the costs are necessary and justified because of threats he has received from what he describes as the, quote, extreme radical right. So he says that the reason he needs $15 million in security over the course of 2 years is because conservatives are too mean to him?
Well, that's certainly been an argument he's made, but welcome to the world of free speech. I mean, that people have the right to express their opinions, and again, our mission as an organization is transparency. We want to make these agreements made public, so the taxpayers can have the debate amongst themselves as to whether this is justified or not.
Yeah.
And let's again our philosophy is, hey, if you're a progressive, you think that the solution to the world's problems is more government spending. Bring your best argument. Let's get the information out there and have at it.
Yeah.
And that's what people are demanding, is they want access to this information, they want to argue about it, and they want the best idea to win. And that's what is so often is lacking, and you shouldn't have to pull teeth to get straight answers from the government.
It's pretty rich. The defund the police people gave Anthony Fauci a chauffeur and private security for $15 million. And they wonder why they lost this election. It's so crazy. Thank you very much. John Hart, the CEO of Open the Books, thank you for digging into this and exposing this government.